All right, for those of you waiting patiently with prayer for us to return, we want to thank you so much for waiting. And know that you have gotten a new feed. We ask you to pause and share so persons who may have drifted off or who maybe thought that we're through will start back on. Now, if you're just joining us, tonight's program is titled Who's in Charge? And we have 5 persons on panel, including added to the host, I'm Cassandra Strong. We have
Angel Joseph,
Kelvis Joseph,
Travis Hall,
Talita Gittens,
and Carlos Gittens.
all right, so as we said, we're discussing who's in charge. Now, just before we took a break, we had a quote from an Adventist lady in our conference, and she said, any God-fearing woman who understands the analogy with Christ and his church, will easily understand why God placed the man as head and in charge. Now we want to discuss some of the myths. You know, a lot of persons have some really strange ideas and some misconceptions, you know, when it comes to that word submission in marriage. So I'm opening the floor now, maybe not to Travis yet. All right? When you hear that word submission, and I want the wives to start, is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, when you hear Ephesians 5:22, speak to you and it says, wives, submit yourself to your husband. Talita, submit to Carlos. Angel, submit to Kelvis. What does that word submit? You know, what is it saying to you? What does it mean to you?
Well, I know, well, let me say what I hear first, right? So usually I would hear submission is slavery, and submission
oppression.
is
Oppression.
oppression. You stupid to do that, right? But to me, submission speaks of loyalty and obedience. Submission speaks of unity, right? And I think submission in a marriage would create happiness.
Okay, so that is Mrs. Joseph, Mrs. Gittens. What are you saying?
Actually, I do agree with her. And the other thing is also is that you are giving way to the authority of the husband as he is the head of the house. But that does not mean that you are not equal to him.
Yeah, that's that.
If you understand what I mean. Because he's not there to step on top of you and say, hey, you do this, you do that, you do the other, and you have no say, or you have to do everything that he says. Because you're still a person, and he married you for the reason that he wants to be with you.
All right.
In a way that, you know, mentally and physically, that you are a person that he also respects. Because the other thing, I know a lot of people don't like that part of the text, but there's also the text of the husband's loving the wife. And the only way you can love a woman is if you submit to what she wants and how she wants to be loved.
All right, so you don't want to jump ahead tonight. I find you're getting excited, changing gear a little too quickly.
Apologies.
Little too quickly. So we have some men. Travis, husband hopeful, and then we have Mr. Joseph and Mr. Gittens. From your male perspective, what does it mean to you? But before, what are some of the myths? You know, heard men speaking on the blocks or maybe in your workplaces or maybe even at school or in church when they say, this is what I expect of my wife because the Bible says she must submit. So, men, what do you have to say?
Well, a lot, you know, growing up and, you know, also in terms of from a cultural perspective and this thing, you know, you would hear probably some guys would say it's either my way or the highway or this thing, you know. And it comes across as if, you know, the lady is like, you know, if I should use that phrase, like the inferior sex, right, in our society. In terms of submission, right? That is how, you know, some people have it. But I'm speaking of from a biblical perspective. For me, submission means, you know, you compromise when needs be, all right? Meeting, you know, your husband halfway, all right? And at the same time, you know,
meeting your wife halfway.
yeah, yeah, it goes both ways. I don't think when the Bible would have said that wives submit yourself unto your own husband, right? I think it only stopped there. I think it's a two-way stream, right? You know, yeah, you have to give in at times, all right? You know, to ensure that the best possible, decision is made. So I see it as a way of, cooperation, all right? I'm putting two heads in one instead of one head. Much more can be achieved this way. So I don't think that it's any way making the person less of a person, all right? Less than important than the thing. I just see it cooperation, helping to make decision, and giving the man in some ways, some I don't want to say feed his ego, but let him know that he's important, yeah.
All right. So, Travis, before you share with us some of the views, now we want to remind you, the viewers, we went off a bit due to technical difficulties, and now we're back on. But some persons are still thinking that we're off. So we want you now to like and share.
That's right.
Keep sharing. Let some persons be hearing ping, ping, ping. Let them know that Youth Live is back on, and we're steaming with the topic,
Yeah.
who's in charge. And we want them to be able to share, because it's not a one-way thing. The program is better when online viewers join in with their point of view. So, Travis, just a myth that you would have heard.
Okay, so I'll say two
All right.
myths that I probably would hear. Usually guys stay quiet when that comes up a lot because they don't want to offend the females around a lot. And the females would be very voiceless. Like, they would say, I don't want this guy thinking that I'm a puppet, or these guys these days, it's not worthy, they're not worthy for my submission. And I think in their minds, they have a wrong idea of the word submission. They would think that submission means, I can't inhale or exhale unless he says so. So I think the reason why these myths come up is as a result of the definition that they have in their mind.
That they have in their mind.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So, Carlos,
Mhm.
what is a myth before you share? We don't want to get on so much, but tell us a myth, something that you think persons have been thinking wrongly.
I think I could get to the root of the myth. I could say that men and women are truly exactly alike. Like, we understand that men and women are very different, and by us recognizing men and women as different is how we could actually understand why wives should submit. After all, within the same text it says that the men are the head of the home. So if the men are the head of the home, it means that men have certain roles that they have to play, and as a result of them having to play those roles, women should
All
submit.
right, having to play, but efficiently and effectively playing those roles. Are we
Definitely.
right? So we said that it's an analogy between, Christ and the church.
So
Okay.
I just want to say that that's one of the roots of the problem, and it's actually a very modern phenomenon that's happening, where they're saying whatever men could do, women could do. So that's the myth.
And better.
You understand? So if men could do whatever women could do,
That's
women
what
no longer need to submit to men.
All right. Now, you see, that is what the world will want us to think that way. And because of our modern era where some women are working for more than men, you have this thing where they believe,
Yeah.
because I'm working for more than you are working, why should I submit to you?
Mhm.
Because if they think that submission means I am letting go of who I am, and as if I'm down on all fours, trying for you to. But when we think about the analogy between Christ and the church, I mean, as Christians, are we down on all fours with a chain around our necks and Christ just pulling us left, right, and center? You understand? We submit because we know that He's all powerful. Now, it's amazing how we go with the text. You know that text, children obey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perhaps.
It obey your parents, and children are able to tell you in the Lord only to do what is right.
Definitely.
So similarly, when we think about submission, there are some myths that whatever I say, you should do.
Mhm.
And we have some people who run with the idea, well,
Hmm.
Travis, the woman sin first. And the reason why we have so much problem is because the woman. So that's one of the myths that we have.
You're sure, right?
That the woman sinned first.
Mhm.
And because the woman sinned, God had to put. As a matter of fact, Eve sinned, but God didn't go to Eve.
Yeah.
Call for Adam
Yeah,
He
first.
called for Adam. Why did God call for Adam?
Good point.
Yeah, true.
Why did God go to Adam? Because even if the woman, was the first to be deceived, he expected the man to be able to give accountability for his family.
Mm,
You understand? So
Yeah.
we have to look at that in perspective. The man still has to give an account. And if men will truly understand
Mhm.
their role and play out their role,
That's true.
then we as wives would be more comfortable in setting, because the same way children are to obey in the Lord.
Mhm.
If our husbands are not spiritual,
Yeah.
why are we going to submit? You understand? Yes, somebody.
Kevin Dragon, he says the problem is not submission, but who they
Yes.
may have to submit to.
Yes.
If a woman have a problem with submitting to a man, then it means they are uncomfortable with that man as a spiritual leader and a husband.
Right, very good.
Right.
And
That's a
yes,
good point.
You
that's
know,
a good
the
point.
Bible
Yeah,
says
definitely.
that the wife has to submit to her husband, but it also says that
Mhm.
husbands
Should
love
love
your
as
wife
Christ.
as Christ loved the church and
Yes.
gave himself, right? So if the man is treating the woman as, well, he's loving her, he is trying to make her feel comfortable, he's supporting her,
Yes.
then by all means she would feel comfortable enough to seek to always want him to be happy.
Agree.
If he asks her to do something, she will try to comply. Now, I am thinking about it, right? Sometimes Kelvis would fret me, and at that time, I wonder if I should cook. Mind you, I would do it because I love him, right?
Yes.
And I know at this point in time, it's just a little disagreement we have. And I also know that he loves me, right? So I am happy to do these things for him. And I don't see it as a burden or as something weighing me down, right? I am happy to do the things that would please him.
Yes.
So because I am comfortable, I am feeling love, I am feeling appreciated, then I want to do these things.
I mean, I
That's
truly agree.
true.
And with Travis here, Travis is not yet married.
Mhm.
And hence the reason, Travis, is very important. Before you just run in and say, I love this girl so much, you have to understand, in the biblical sense, would she be willing
Mhm.
to submit to you, and are you able to be the spiritual leader of your home? You understand? Yes, Carlos.
There's a really, really important deep dive that I discovered when I was searching the internet, and when I saw it the first time, I had to share it with my father immediately. One of the things that we look at the two texts and we see is a very duty-bound explanation as to what wives should do and what husbands should do. So wives, submit to your husband, that's your duty. Husbands loves your wives, that's your duty. But if you actually look at those two texts from a love perspective, it would completely blow you out the water. Let me explain. Men feel love different to how women feel love.
That's true.
So women feel love via words of affection and so on, and men feel love via what
Actions.
Weenie was about to say. Kelvis was gonna say, feeding your ego, and it's actually a very important point. You see, because what's the real role of a man? The man goes out, kill, bring it on the home, drop it on the table, and then he wants support by the wife cooking up the kill,
Being a helpmeet.
basically.
Yes.
And what's the husband supposed to do to the wife? The husband is supposed to now come and say, hey, you know what, I really love you, and you're so wonderful, etc., etc. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, all of a sudden, wives submit to your husband sounds like the most amazing thing that could ever be said
Mhm.
for a family of husband and wife, because it's actually telling you what method you need to use in order for you to love each other.
Alright.
Because the way you need to love a woman is by, just like it say, hey, love your wife in terms of like showing affection, etc.
Talking.
And I noticed that when she was talking, she said, you know what, when I feel like this, and that's how she gets love from her husband. But when she says, I can still do my duty, he recognizes that as,
That he got upset, but
Yeah.
yet still.
and he recognizes that she's definitely
But
showing
that is
love.
if he's acting out of love.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
somebody might say, Angel, I mean, the man gets you upset, he's supposed to stay hungry for the rest of the night. You
Which is
understand?
spite.
Which is spite. So you have to look. We have some online viewers. One said that, before we could submit, before the wife could submit to her husband, we must be able to submit to God. So you see, we get in somewhere. Our theme for tonight is who's in charge. All right? And that was John Max. And Kevin Alexander is speaking about Christ loving us unconditionally. And could you imagine that within this text where it said, husbands, love your wife unconditionally. And when you have a man giving you so much love, ladies, I mean, automatically we will just respond.
No, you
No,
should.
if you have somebody who's driving you and the person keep meeting in an accident, how comfortable will you be to sit and allow that person to drive you?
True.
Not comfortable.
Not comfortable. So would it be the same thing if we have husbands who are not seeking after God's will, not a man after God's own heart? Wives may not be that comfortable in just sitting down and saying, okay, my husband will lead. Travis, what do you think?
Okay, so we established the fact that husbands should love their wives as Christ loved the church according to the Bible. So in that case, God is our leader. And there's a difference between a leader and a boss. Usually a boss is someone who tells the employees what to do and how to do what to do. But as a leader, you should be able to influence your employees or your people
With
and
mannerisms.
with mannerisms, encourage them to do what you want them to do. And I think that's the role that
You lead
God...
by example.
Yeah.
You
Lead by
lead
example.
by example, yes.
And I think that's the role that God give husbands, because he's a leader. He's not a boss, because he gave us all
And
choices.
just commanding.
Exactly.
Not okay.
So he doesn't want us to be robots. That's why from the beginning he established that choice for us. So it's our choice to do what he wants us to do, because we love him and he loves us. And it's the same way with the husband and the wife. Because we love the wife, they should be encouraged to do what we want, be influenced by what
We
God wants us to
motivated.
do.
God wants us to do.
Yeah.
So
But
Ruth
there's another-
Cato,
oh.
Ruth Cato before she's saying the woman is also the weaker vessel, not foolish. Some people like the tendency, the weaker vessel. All right, somebody will agree, will say, hey, we have the men, the men have one less rib, and you have the this, and if the man is the head, he cannot survive without the neck, and I'm the neck. You have all these things going on. But she says, if they do not respect their husband, neither see them as being able to lead the way God intended, she will never submit. The wife also needs to have her own relationship with God, where she would learn how, not just learn, but be guided as to how, day by day. Yes, Talita.
And actually, that's the same thing I was going to say, because you could actually have a man that intends the best for you, but you as a woman say, nah, that's not what I want because it sounds too boring. And I realize a lot of women are saying that they find that marriage and the sweet sounding words of what it's supposed to be like boring. And it's actually amazing to hear that, because I'm like, this is somebody who wants to love you and shower you with affection and things like that. But he's not the one you want to run to. You want to run to the one that must have a whole set of women following him. That are doing all the kind of things that are exciting. And you may not think marriage is for you because you just want excitement.
All right.
And that's what she may expect. But a lot of the women don't realize that leadership comes with responsibility. And you as a woman also have responsibility for yourself. You are responsible for choosing who your partner is. Just recently, I remember seeing something on Facebook where a woman was saying, oh, how I wish we could choose our babies' daddies. And a man had to come up and say, somebody tell her, because I'm very sorry for this pitiful woman. Because it's like it's seen now as if like there's no choice in the relationship that you choose.
Yes.
And that's where the world is going. And it's like, well, who's taking away the choice? You are allowing people to lead you how you want because of the examples you're looking at. You understand what I mean? And that is what I realize a lot of men and women are not doing, showing by examples
Definitely.
the process before marriage, at the marriage gate, and after marriage.
And John Max was reminded us that prior to that, you know, the text before was saying that we have to
Yeah,
submit to each
each other
other,
as well.
the fear, you know, the fear of God. And now we have Sister Miller, she's saying based on who Jesus is and how he relates to us, the authority of the husband should only be expressed in Christ-like ways. I just want to ask you, so we've been speaking about, you know, what submission should be like, you know, but let's get it out there. What is it that submission, you know, for example, people can learn from feeling out. So if I tell you an apple is red, anything that is orange or yellow, you may say that's not an apple.
Agreed.
But we want to get it out. We know that submission is love, and even though you're upset, you're doing this, and you know, we this unconditional love, and we respecting our husbands as heads of the household. But what is it that submission is not? Paint pictures of this so people can know if they cannot truly read a book. You can say, if this is happening, this is not submission. What are some of the things that you could, some kind of red flags that, hey, this is not what true submission is. This is not what the Bible speaks about when it comes to submission. Anybody has
You're
anything?
talking from the point of view of the woman or the point of view of the man?
In a marriage, what is submission
Okay, so both.
not?
Submission
Yes.
is not slavery.
Submission is not slavery.
Submission is not fright.
Submission is not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
As long as you have a relationship where two people can freely express their views, then you have a serious problem.
So people
Like
should be able to freely share.
Yeah.
All right.
Without any
Repercussions.
Intimidation and
significant
those things.
consequences. Yeah.
All right. So we want the viewers to tell us, you know, I don't want you to be shy tonight. What is your view? You know, what are some of the things that people are thinking that submission is? What is it that you know submission should not be? Now, Travis is here, and Travis, I mean, I know he's listening. So, Travis, what you learned so far?
Submission is also not muzzling the wife, so she's allowed to express herself in the way she wants to.
But you know, there are some people who say the Bible says that the woman must
Should be heard, not
you
Seen and
know,
not
the
heard.
silent. But if we go through the Bible, we will see some powerful women, even in that book of Esther.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Esther knew that she had to submit, but based on what he was doing, she had to stand up. And she said, even though I die.
Yeah.
You understand? So as a wife, we have to know, as wives, we have to know, where would we draw the line? Is it important, or do we always sit and concede to our husbands?
Yeah,
Kelvis,
yeah.
what's your view?
Well, it's good that we're looking at it from a biblical perspective because, like I said earlier, you know, society in some ways would have shaped, you know, our perception and this thing. Also in terms of, you know, what was handed down to us in terms of slavery and all of those things, you know, whereby in some societies ladies are looked up upon, you know, and even in some other cultures, yeah, where we talk about patriarchal and matriarchal and this thing, you know, patriarchal as if the man, you know, is a boss and, you know, he runs things and this thing. But we're looking from the biblical perspective. Christ loving the church and this thing. There is no fear or dictatorship on this thing. The Christian has the opportunity to express himself. You know, some people look at Christianity as a straitjacket, but nothing like that. I think, you know, they would have misunderstand the whole issue of that of Christianity. So Christ, you know, give us choice. You know, we have a say. All right? You know, we could voice our opinion. You know, we could express, you know, how we feel on this thing. And that avenue is made available, you know, to the Christian. And if that is translated in terms of marriage, where wives have to submit, right? Her voice is supposed to be able to be heard and not pushed aside, you know, as if what she's saying is of little significance on this thing, right? Because in such a situation, very little we get accomplished in terms of, you know, resolving conflict and this thing. When misunderstanding comes up, you know, friction. How would you be able to resolve it if every time the husband says, you know, keep your mouth shut, you know, what I say, all this thing,
That's
right?
the thing.
And worse yet, you know, if there are children, you know, in the marriage and they look at the father disposition on this thing, and then again, if there is a son, he would grow up in a similar way that, well, I supposed to speak and
Before
everybody
it
follow.
goes on generation to
And of
generation.
course, and
yeah.
the little girls now would have this kind of inferiority complex. So you see, it's a whole
Or run
society
from
thing.
marriage.
Yeah.
That's the next thing, So and people are smart; they will understand. So it's very, very, very important that husbands really understand the role as to how Christ loved the church and those things.
And that's what they should
Alright?
do.
Yes.
So that is, where we have to, what we have to live with, right? It's from a spiritual perspective. And if husband love their wives as how Christ loved the church, there is absolutely no reason why ladies will not submit, because he's in Christ-like. And Christ's way is always best for us.
Yeah.
So if his, modus operandi, his disposition, his mannerism is after Christ, then definitely the wife would place confidence in him that he's leading on the right path and this thing.
I
So
don't
there'll
want to downplay, but isn't it true that you have some women who will talk about, I can't do this submission thing.
Yes.
I can't do this submission
Really?
thing. I'm this and I'm strong enough to do. And then some little rat or centipede or some kind of thing come into the house, and then they'll jump up. You're the man. You're the man, and you're gone in a corner. What kind of man are you?
Or
You're supposed to be taking care of the household. So when it comes to certain things now, we ready now to sit back, and the man is supposed to leave. Now we had a few viewers, they were saying that, submission is not being a doormat. The husband should not be overly possessive. You should not downgrade somebody's worth. You shouldn't be selfish. And key, you must do unto others, from John Max and Sherry, John St. Louis, and we have some valid points coming. I may not get your name, but I'm reading your points all together, and your points are really enhancing our discussion. Talisha Roberts says, submission is not room for abusive, and not just physical abuse, any type. Anytime, because you have verbal, you can actually have sexual abuse in relationships, because men believe the woman must submit, and whatever I tell you to do, even to that point. And you understand,
Yes.
even to that point. So we have to be very careful as to what. Now, Carlos, the other point.
I just wanted to highlight that in this program we are in no way downplaying the fact that the two people actually need to be connected to God.
Yes,
Yeah.
You
yes,
understand?
so
So
true.
it's not, we move forward with an assumption in an Adventist program that the people that we are talking about have to be getting closer to God in order for them to understand the principles behind submission and love. And I don't think that they should ever be separated again. I just want to highlight it.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's how each other shows affection to one another. And that's the only way it works. I think that it is really, really harsh when you think about our Adventist sisters in church sitting down and listening to this and saying, well, no, this is not something that I could do, because what's really amazing about it is that it's a pathway to happiness. It's actually a pathway to happiness. So when you say, hey, you know what, I cannot submit, that does not make sense to me.
So what if the husband say, well, hey, I cannot love?
Yeah, it's biblical. It's a biblical pathway towards how you could actually be happy in your marriage. And I think that one of the biggest issues that fights against the principles of submission / love, because believe it or not, just like you say, if a woman says, I will not submit, it's actually very difficult for a man to love her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the reason why it gets very, very big and messed up is because men and women have different roles.
Definitely.
They see the world in a different way, and they have certain ways that they have to operate. Therefore, do you want to know how to love your wife? Listen to what the Bible says.
And that's important.
Do you want to
thing.
know how to love your husband? This is what the Bible says.
All right,
And
so
it's
we
also
have
opinions
we have
too.
a valid. We have Shayna Wallace, and she's saying can't wait to submit to a loving husband as God intended. Happy Sabbath, everyone from Trinidad.
Happy
And we
Sabbath.
have Angel. If you could read what Sherry's John.
I do agree with not submitting to some extent. What if there's nothing to submit to? What if my husband is not in line with God's principles? How can I then submit to someone who is not in accordance to God's will and word? Now, submission, I am thinking, is not putting your husband's will before God's will.
Mhm.
So you have to first submit to God,
Very good
right?
point.
Put God's will first. So if your husband is telling you something that goes against what God asks of you, then you cannot submit to that. You cannot accept that. You cannot be in agreement to that. So we could use some other words for submission. We cannot agree, we cannot accept, we cannot obey.
Yeah, but at the
Right?
same
Because
time,
of-
even if we disagree and we
Yes.
know that what
Respectfully.
we are saying, we have there's a way that we
Yeah,
should do it.
definitely.
Yeah.
And hence the reason why we advocating that in marriages before Travis, when you're deciding, you have to know that you cannot be unequally yoked. Or else in simple things like that you can end up with some trouble. Now Adventist Home page 117 says, it was not design of God that the husband should have control as head of the house when he himself does not submit to Christ. He must be under the rule of Christ that he may represent the relationship of Christ to the church. If he is a coarse, rough, boisterous, egotistical, harsh, and overbearing man, let him never utter the word that the husband is the head of the wife, and that she must submit to him in everything, for he is not the Lord. He is not the husband in the true significance of the term. And I think this basically could wrap up this session as to what submission is not. Question. Is submission or biblical submission the happy and natural response to biblical leadership? And we're just going to take, do you think it should be a natural and happy response?
It's a working. It's a working response.
It's a working response.
Because just like how you work to try to continue to be in God's graces and to do the right thing,
Yeah,
it's
but
something you have to
but
strive
see,
for.
you're right. But if with Christians, when we practice daily and we in tune, some things come naturally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
now
that's
we're
why I say it's
asking
something to
if
strive for.
Yeah,
okay,
yes,
all right. So
yeah.
question: can a woman be independent and still submit?
What is independence?
Can
Not
a
be
woman
married?
be not being married? You mean she has
Have
her
her own
career,
say.
she could have a business, she has a point of view,
Own opinion.
even if she's making more money. So Travis, I want to hear, because I find you it's like you're allowing the married people to speak and you're taking notes. But do you think that it would be wrong for your wife to be making more money than you and have to submit to you?
Well, definitely not wrong. She could definitely make more money than me, and that's fine, but she still could submit even though she's making more money than me. I think the reason why a lot of females don't want to submit as well is because they don't understand the roles like we were talking about. So, yes, my role is to love you and your role is to submit to me, but that doesn't mean I am over you, or in other way, you're lesser than I am. So that's why a lot of females don't like to submit, because they think of themselves lesser than the man if they submit. And next thing too with the vessel. When the Bible says the female is a weaker vessel, yes, we need to treat the female as a weaker vessel in terms of
Caring.
right, exactly, protecting too. So if someone is coming at us, you don't take the female and push her. Exactly. That's not treating the female as a weaker vessel. So that was to answer his question.
Okay, all right.
So, in terms of independence and being submissive, yes, you could still have your role of being submissive and still be an independent woman working for how much money or the leader of whatever company. Yes, your role is still there to be submissive. That shouldn't change based on your status in society.
I fully agree. Yes, Talita.
And I believe they keep mixing up the word with independent
Yeah.
as a that you're no longer a person when you're married.
Agreed.
As
It is
if-
independent and we still, so I think we could get that. Being independent as a country doesn't mean that we just,
Yeah.
you still
Exactly.
here.
So when it actually comes to that, I realize a lot of females think that they lose themselves once they become married, as if they don't have a power, or join with somebody else, as if they don't have power over their own selves. If you understand what I mean, like you give him everything and then you become almost nothing while
Okay.
time goes on.
So if we go to Proverbs 31,
Mhm.
I mean, was that woman an independent woman? Proverbs
Which one's
31, she
31?
got up, she was
She was
industrious, she
industrious,
used her hands, she
Ah.
made,
Careful.
she was doing.
But then that's doing a duty. That's not being independent. That's
But she
doing the
was
things that you
making-
have to do.
And then she wore expensive clothes. You understand? Why was she able? Is it that she was sitting down waiting or whatever the case may be? She stood up.
But that's the thing, she was still doing her duty.
She was
It has
still
nothing
doing,
really
so
to do
it's
with independence.
Thank you. So
You're
some,
doing what you're supposed to do in
so
order to
some people,
survive.
you know, in this world of rights, human rights and rights of the
Yeah.
child and equal rights and this rights, everybody's asking and the women standing up for equal rights. And as Travis alluded to, when there's trouble, the man will say, well, anytime you say we equal women first, well then go ahead, and then they wanna step back. So Mike Bennett, hello, and Cornell Doughton. Our last question in this section before we go to special music, it asks,
I really
How-
wanna
sorry.
do a reference.
Mhm.
Is that's what I was looking for. At the fall, in Patriarchs and Prophets, and it actually talks about submission, and she
Mhm.
says, Eve was told of the sorrow and pain that henceforth would be the portion, and the Lord said, Thy desire shall be towards thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. In creation, God had made her equal to Adam. Had they reigned obedient to God in harmony with his with his great law of love, they would ever have been in harmony with each other. But sin had brought discord, and now their union could be maintained and harmony preserved only by submission on the part of one or the other. Eve had been the first in transgression, and she had fallen into temptation by separating her from her companion, contrary to the divine direction. It was her solicitation that Adam sinned. It was by her solicitation that Adam sinned, and she was now placed in subjection to her husband. Had the principles enjoined in the law of God had been cherished by the fallen race, this sentence, which is that she should submit, though growing out of the results of sin, would have proved a blessing to them. But man's abuse of supremacy thus given him has too often rendered the lot of woman very bitter and made her life a burden. When I read that the first time, it just blew me away, and I was looking for it. I said, I really have to put that in there.
And I think I saw that when we were looking at, when we said that, you know, some people would think, let me put it there because this happened, Now, Angel and Kelvis, you know, the Bible view that, you know, Christ is the head. How does that understanding of Christ as the head of the church and Christ loved the church? And, you know, the parallel between Christ and the church and the husband and the wife, how do you think that can apply in your marriage?
Well, looking at Christ, right? He did what was necessary, right?
So.
He took the first step. He laid down his life, you know, for we as the sheep and the sting, when we were like unable to do so, right? At the wit's ends and the sting. So with that, he led by example and those things, right? So the only thing we can do in return, if we appreciate, you know, what he would have done for us, because he's genuine, he's not one that would say one thing and do something, you know, totally different. You know, he's a friend that's taken close to another brother. So he made the provisions, right, for our, you know, comfort, our salvation, our redemption, and those things, all right? And that is unconditional love, right? So I, as a Christian, my response to this is just, you know, obedience, right? And it's not something I see as some straitjacket, you know, Christ being unreasonable, right? It's because, you know, his goodness, his love, just naturally, you know, I give myself over to him. And if that context is, you know, transmitted to that of, you know, a marriage, then I see that as the right relationship that anybody would want to find him or herself in, you know, because love is there, and then a natural reaction to love, you know, would also be there, and I just see happiness, you know, growing from strength to strength, right? But if, you know, I see Christ as an enemy, there'll always be contention. And so too, if a wife will see her husband as a threat, I don't think there will be any kind of you know, peace and joy in this thing. You'll always sleep with one eye open on this thing.
And then we believe in the Trinity.
Exactly.
And
So
if we look at that level of equality and the roles of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and you know, you think, no, we had a question, And the question by BJ Emmons. She asked, I think so she.
That is Betty.
Yes, it
Betty Ann. Okay, all right. If the husband begins to slack off spiritually, should the wife? Is it the wife's duty?
I really want to address that.
You know, is it the wife's duty? So we don't want to take more than 2 minutes
it
on
won't
this.
take long.
Is it
There's a question.
okay? In the case of a husband who may start slacking off spiritually during marriage, is the wife obligated to help her husband get back in line?
Yes.
Is she obligated to get him back in line, or should he pick up himself as he's the leader or head of the household?
The CEO of a company, your company, you're working in this company, you're second in command, and you realize that he made a mistake. You're second in command. What do?
You speak.
Do you let the company die? Or do you say, hey, you know what? You made a mistake. Let me see if we could get back
And
on
I
track.
think, and the Bible has an answer to that. Remember when it spoke about the believing and unbelieving, and it said that the believing wife can sanctify. So, it's very important. But then, even our correction. So, Angel, if Kelvis is slacking off, you don't rough him up, and Tally, you don't rough up, and Travis, I don't expect that beautiful woman you married to rough you up. But the way in which you speak, No, we have some scenarios, some Bible scenarios, but before we get into that, we're going to have an item of special music as we regroup and we get to look at the true benefits. And these couples, Travis, will share what are some of the benefits that can come about from truly submitting in marriage. So sit back, enjoy, and like and share so persons can join in this item of special music.
What if he's somehow involved? What if he's speaking through it all? Who knows how we'll get a hold of us, get our attention to prove it enough. He'll do and he'll do whatever he wants to until I love you. His ways are higher. His ways are higher. Though sometimes be strange, what could be stranger than God in a manger?
Welcome back to this night's program titled Who's in Charge? And we've been having a very exciting program, and we have some online viewers who are there asking your questions, and we're going through, and we do not want you to forget the fact that in order to submit, we must submit to God first.
Yes.
The closer we are to God, the closer we are to holding hands together spiritually. Now I want to bring a scenario to you, and then I want to ask a question. So the scenario reads as this, and it's Abigail. The Bible describes Abigail as a woman of good understanding and beautiful appearance. She was married to a rich but foolish businessman named Nabal. Unfortunately, her husband did not share her capacity for wisdom and virtue. When David and his men were hiding from King Saul in the wilderness, they protected Nabal's sheep shearers and treated them kindly. Not unreasonably, they sent a message to Nabal requesting food and water in return for their services. Nabal rudely refused. Enraged, David was ready to respond with violence, but Abigail saved the day by taking matters into her own hands. She countermanded her husband's orders and sent supplies to David's camp. Interestingly, she did not tell her husband what she was doing. So question, was Abigail right or justified for the decision she made? So I'm going to ask on this side.
I would have said because it's for the greater good, yes. For the fact she didn't tell him, maybe she intended to tell him later, I don't know.
Well,
By
I
the
can't-
point
I
in
can't
time,
say.
yeah, that's what we don't
on,
know.
on that point, do you
But-
think?
I think that I think she was definitely justified.
Justified, not right.
And I think that yeah.
Yeah, okay, well.
It was justified.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
justified but not right.
So
but
there's
it
a
wasn't
good,
right.
there was a good
Okay.
reason.
I think that she ended up in that position ultimately, I would say, because there's that soft side to like that partnership that if he were already listening to her, this scenario would never have happened. Yeah, you know, honey, them fellas, they was actually helping us out, but I don't feel like I need to help them. Honey, I need to help them because so. That interaction
Okay. All
would
right.
end up with
So that the Gittin saying justified. Joseph.
Well, there is this fruit of the spirit which is called the spirit of discernment and those things. And as you were making reference to the whole fact that if the man sleep up, alright, the lady, I think, in all fairness, should take up the slack. And with your God-given, vision and wisdom and this thing, she probably would have brought it to his attention, the outcome that would serve in the best interest of, her and even the people on this thing may not have come out that way. She would have, make it known to him. So, in certain key situations, of course, as I said just now, that, we put God first. And if, God would have given us this directive and this thing,
You do what's
not
right.
wrong if it's, at first, the man is not aware of it because devil might use him, to thwart, God's, plan and those things. So,
But I don't know if you look further. Did you realize that the same men that her husband ordered listened to her? Why is it that they would think it necessary to even listen to her command to go and do differently?
to worship
Oh,
with
to
mercy.
the husband.
You understand? So it means therefore that her authority in the home was recognized.
Yes.
Yes.
We have to understand
That's
it,
true.
it was recognized, and I think in the end it was a testimony to all. So that she yielded to, I would say, to God.
Yes.
Should she have spoken to him if the situation was different? Because he said he was angry at this time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would he have listened to her
Yeah,
telling this? Would he have listened?
So that comes,
Additionally, the intent was good for good.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I'm thinking if she's doing it, I'm just trying to relate it to everyday situation. If she's doing it to deceive him or to make him look like a bad person or so on, then I don't think that should be your motive. but that was not. She had good intention. She wanted peace, you know.
Mhm.
So let's listen to Travis.
No, I was gonna say, we're all humans and we all mess up sometimes.
Mhm.
And in this case, he was the one that messed up.
Mm-hmm.
She allowed the Holy Spirit to guide her to do something like that. So, in her light, yes, she was justified for doing that. Not because she didn't tell her husband, but probably because the Holy Spirit probably told her not to tell her husband because of that situation. He might not have listened and he might have done something in haste and so on. So I believe 100% that she was justified for her actions.
Okay. And we have to remember, marriage is a partnership. And in partnerships, whatever one partner does
affect
will affect the other. So if my husband speaks ill to somebody, you understand, he's my husband. He's affecting the image of our home. So we have to,
To add to it, they would have lost their lives.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
had she not taken that side. So maybe later on in their own private, they are saying, but honey, you know, I was really angry, but it's a good thing you did that.
And it goes right back to our approach. No, somebody could go and apologize and on your husband's behalf and say, I don't know how my husband is stupid, so I don't know what kind of shit.
She didn't know that.
Right. No, that's something. So if you go and you apologize, I'm so sorry for the behavior of my husband, you know, then the whole outcome would be different.
Oh, she didn't.
But she didn't.
Yeah.
She didn't
Yeah,
have
she
to.
didn't.
So in other
Yeah.
words,
But she did apologize.
She apologized,
to the men for the attitude of
Right.
But she
husband,
apologized, but I don't think she needed to, after the outcome, to go and apologize
To him.
To him. Maybe
Right.
she would have said,
Yeah.
I thought
I know.
it best. It's not that it's not that she's saying it was wrong for me to help. So sometimes there's a lesson for us as wives.
Yeah.
That sometimes we have to listen to God and make certain decisions that may truly counteract. Totally opposite to
Not
what.
sometimes.
And I like that
At
too.
all times,
Yeah.
we listen to
Go
God.
ahead.
Sorry, my bad. At all times, you understand,
Yeah.
we listen. Yes, Travis.
I like the fact that she didn't just leave it like this. She tried to reason with the man.
Mm.
So
Okay.
she's showing him that I'm not just going over your head because I think I'm better than you, but I want you to see the way
There
that
must
I'm
always
seeing
be
it.
dialogue, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Delena Sterling is saying, not because he's the head, it doesn't mean that he will not make mistakes. And Keith is coming back and he's saying, agree, the outcome, whether good or bad, will affect the unit. They are married. Each should help the other in being in the light.
Amen to that.
So now, Travis, I'm married.
Mhm.
And you're the only single person.
Mhm.
So we can have an edge on top of you here, speaking of some of the benefits.
Okay.
But thankfully, you live in a home where you have parents who have been married for years, and you would have experienced, or maybe you're the product of submission, you know, that one of the benefits of true submission. So we want to get into this question here. What are some of the benefits? Now, you know, sometimes we discuss and we theoretical and we're not practical. We don't want to share. So when you discuss, maybe you could share. We don't have a lot of time, but share with us. You know, when you discuss your benefit, you can. Once, of course, your husband or your wife would not mind you sharing. All right. One of the benefits of truly submitting biblically.
So I'll
So,
give what?
You want to give one?
Sure.
The
I'll
single
just
man.
start-
The single man is going first.
I'll just
Okay.
start off and then they'll take it.
All right.
One of the benefits you could get from submitting is the love of that husband, because we used to say that if a wife submits to her husband, yes, it makes it easier for him to love that wife. So she gets the feeling of love from the guy that she's submitting to.
All right. So Travis has set the ball rolling. All right.
You know, there's this saying, happy wife, happy life. I think you feel somewhat loved and you feel a sense of belonging and you feel some sort of self-worth and so on. If there is this unconditional love being expressed by your husband, and if you are submitting to him, you are honoring him, then there's this happiness in the home. You always want to get home. You always want to do things together. You always want to treat him right. So there's this overwhelming happiness, overwhelming joy at home. And it will be seen by persons around you. People would feel comfortable in your presence. You know, if somebody's angry, man, you see it, you feel it, you give them the food. Look, there's no joy
Just to
in
get
that,
away from it,
right? And it will make people uncomfortable. So when you have this love at home, when you have this submission, then there's joy.
All right, so I'm seeing happy spouse,
Mhm.
happy house, happy
house,
spouse,
happy
That's a new one.
happy house. So
Mhm.
no, that's the thing. So the Gittins, any benefit? No. Wow.
Well, in my case, I would say that, especially when looking at the word submission, is honoring and loving. That's actually what it means, honoring and loving. And the question is, how do you go about doing it? You go about it biblically and listening to your spouse. How you go about making a happy home also includes how you treat your partner.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, if they're not happy, your life is going to be miserable too.
Yeah.
Sure.
You understand?
Mhm.
So that's what I believe submission in this case is, and that's what I actually try to practice. And also, how we try to talk to one another, say, hey, if this is not working, we need to do something else.
Mhm.
Let's find out how we go about doing it, so that we can get on a better path.
All right. So we have Lemmy, and she's saying prior to submission, besides love, trust is very important. And I would say prior to marriage. Prior
Because
to
if you
marriage,
have love, you have to put your trust in a person.
Yeah, so we have the panelists in here giving their views, and I know we have some married persons watching and some persons like Travis, hopeful spouses. We want to know what are some of the benefits. Now, wives, I'm seeing that we have a point. It says that you will encourage him. You know, you give him confidence at home. We were saying we feel his ego. All right, so.
Yeah. Which is not a bad thing.
It is
All right,
Which is not a bad
yeah.
thing.
It is important to always show your appreciation. So you he would have done something good, something that you liked. Tell him thank you. Let him know how much you appreciate what he's doing, right? It's the same thing. She did something for you, you would say thank you. Let him know how you feel when that happens, right? So it's very important that you show your appreciation.
All right.
And
External
also,
Yeah.
Yes.
a little secret before we go ahead.
Go ahead.
To make a guy very powerful, tap.
Single guy giving us a
Let's listen. Yes.
To make a guy very powerful, tap his ego.
Mm.
The more times you tap his ego, you might see him jump off and fly off a building.
But tapping is equal to not lying, right? So you have to be
Agreed.
very
You have
honest,
to be
right?
honest,
Yes.
yeah.
So
But don't be honest, our fault.
All right, so
okay.
just before you come, we have Emma's coming back, and she's saying submission also positively affects persons from outside.
Yes.
And that's one of the spiritual aspects of it. You know, the
Yeah.
benefits not just to the husband or the wives or to the home, that other persons looking at your family. So Angel and Kelvis, Talita and Carlos, Travis and Toby,
Blank.
you know, and Blank. People are looking on, and sometimes the testimony or witness to others fails simply because our marriages are, like a war zone. Our homes are like a
Yeah,
war
that's
zone.
true.
We put on clothes, we dress up for church, but we're not Christian wise, and the way we behave, we're not really there. Carlos, I'm directing it to you as a man. You know, we have different love languages, and so the men, the women like gifts and but the sexual aspect of marriage. Do you think it will get better if there's this true submission in marriage and this true love? Do you think that sexual aspect of marriage would be better?
Well, the sexual aspect of marriage is in no way separated from the communication in marriage. So the better people communicate and the better people show love is directly related to how much of an amazing sexual experience they would actually have. One of the biggest myths that I see is I could meet somebody tomorrow, never met them before, and have good sex with them. If you have, I only have one experience, but if you have a long-term experience, sexual experience with your spouse, one of the things that you will know is that as soon as you start to get into a sexual experience, the two of you know one another so well, you know exactly what to do, etc. And that has to do directly with your
All
communication
right, so
process.
Travis, it's not just financial benefits and spiritual, there are also some sexual benefits, but as Carlos said, we cannot separate them like our communication and our sex life and our finances and put it, it's a synergy. And when everything, when everything is going well, our marriages will, it will literally blow out the
Sex
roof.
in itself is submitting your entire body.
And trusting that person will not abuse you, in that case. So Lita, you had a point.
Oh yeah, I was going to add to that aspect a point that recently I noticed and I'm unfortunately guilty of. We as women don't generally tell the men, especially after marriage, how good they look. A lot of times we do not give them the appreciation of what we love, what we see. Because we usually just say, oh, thanks for the things that you're doing for us. But we don't tell them, hey, and I even ask my husband, I'm like, am I actually guilty of that? He's like, yeah, I would like you to tell me more. And it's like, when I'm thinking about it, it's true because we always have the men complimenting the women. And women, we need to do that because other women outside doing it and that's what they're taking our husbands.
Oh, boy.
You understand?
Okay.
So that's something that we really need to pay attention to as a woman.
All right, so in submission, we put men, and Delana Sterling is saying, we give them that opportunity, we place them in that position of accountability. You understand? And it's a reminder that, hey, you have to give God account for this wife. You have to give a God account for your family, the same way people go to the pastor and say, listen, this is happening in the church. And you say, well, this is happening, and you run to the pastor. It's similarly, people are coming to you, Kelvis, and they're coming to Carlos and Travis, they'll be coming to you. What is it that is really happening in your home? So for both, you free both spouses from having the right to be the rights, from having to win this engaging in power struggle. It is mutual in that both spouses have responsibilities as one submits to the other. Both spouses benefit from this.
Definitely.
Your marriage can be a model to God of God's love to others.
Yes.
So, it's not a question here, but for just in retrospect, you think of your home and you think of what your home will be like. All right. Can people look at your marriage? That's a question for myself, for you, for the online viewers. Can people look at our marriages and see Christ love in the church? And if you say that it is, Christ said, husbands, love your wives as, and you go to testify to others, would you be like 1 Corinthians 9:27? That when you preach, you yourself be canceled. When people say, well, if this is the way Christ loved the church, like how you love your wife, then I don't want anything at all to do with this Christ. You understand? So, we speak it and there's a social aspect of it, but this marriage thing is a serious spiritual thing. Trisha Jones, welcome, and she's saying submission is an all-rounded aspect of marriage. Everything should be taken into consideration. Every single thing should be in consideration. So the question here tonight is, who's in charge?
Well,
who's in charge?
She make it quite plain, and very short. God's in charge. So a word for we as men. This is part of stewardship, right? God placed a lady in your care and this thing, and it's not like money. It's much more valuable than this, right? It's not an object. So every care must be put, right? Every sacrifice must be made to ensure that you carry out, your husband, responsibility, without compromise and without any form of, mishaps and those things. So the man really, really have to be connected to God, right? If he really want to do justice, to this noble, responsibility, right? To love his wife as Christ of the church and those things. And he should not abuse his power, if you want to put it that way. All right? We would have established that the lady would have, trust you, with her life and those things. Then the reasonable thing to do, the God-given thing to do is not to just love her in return, right? Not to make her feel any less of a person, but, build her self-esteem and let her know that, she's important. So at the end of the day, we have to give account to God and not any other person.
All right. So, Angel, who's in charge? In your marriage, who's in charge?
God is in charge, right? So if Kelvis does not allow God to lead him, he definitely would not treat me the way that, you know, he's treating me in terms of love and so on. If God is not leading him, then I would not have been getting this treatment. Additionally, if God is not leading me, then I would not be able to respond to him in a certain way. And we're not saying that in a marriage that you would not have disagreements, but the way that you would attack that disagreement, or the way that you would go about solving your problems, you have to allow God to lead you.
All right. So Talita, who's in charge? I heard you say God.
So
Carlos, Talita
But,
is saying that in the
the
marriage,
hierarchy.
God is in charge. Are you in agreement with that?
Yes, of course.
All right. So Travis, who's going to be in charge?
God is going to be in charge, like a triangle.
God is going to be in charge, and the
Yeah.
husband is like the deputy
Executive.
essential,
As Kim was saying.
Chemo is saying. So we must understand that in the final analysis, God is saying that wives, you must submit, husbands, you must love. But if we understand that God is in charge, the way we speak, the way we walk, the way we talk, every aspect in our sexual lives, in our financial lives, the way we make decisions, the way we treat our children, all of those things will come into play. But it's important for us to remember that our marriages are testimonies to individuals out there. So as we wrap up and as you put your prayer requests out there, we want persons to truly understand that God is in charge in our marriages. So for persons who, we have a question here. So persons who do not believe in God, who is in charge?
Everybody.
Well, that would be, you know, we as Christians, we truly believe, but at the same time, when you get married, you do it with love, and love will allow you to truly submit to good ideas, to submit to good authority.
And guess what?
Yes.
God is love.
God is love, but whether we want to agree, God is in charge of this earth He has created, and in the end, every single thing in marriage can be wonderful if we just truly accept the fact that God is in charge.
Yes.
So online viewers, we're asking for your prayer requests as we take time to pray, and we want to understand that those of us here, we need prayers as married people, because we may have failed in some areas. It may have been an eye-opener for us in some areas. Travis has truly learned, and Travis may need to, you know, go back to his list and add to, you know, or take away, or truly ask God, you know, this is what I wanted. But now I'm asking you to lead, because I don't want this trouble with this argument when I get into marriage. So ladies, will allow the men to pray. All right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So even though persons have not, we want to pray for all the online viewers. Sherry John Louis is asking for us to pray for her marriage. And we have a number of married persons, and we have a number of persons who are intended and single. And we have families. Each person will represent families. So we want to pray for these families, recognizing that if the devil takes over our marriages, you know, the whole world will be affected as the families are affected. So the men, we ask you to lead
In
this
prayer.
in prayer.
I'll start then. And the big men will take care. Alright, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before your presence. Thank you so much for an eye-opener tonight, Lord. We understand that you're the one in charge. Lord, you have given each of us roles in the marriage, and that does not diminish our value. Lord, we pray, oh Father, that you continue to help each and every one of our marriages so that they can succeed. Lord, help us to put you the head of the home, and Lord, help us to understand what that means, and Lord, help us to put into practice so that those looking on who are single, they will want to be like you and want to know you because you're the head. Father, forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. This is our prayer through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Dear Lord, we linger in your presence once again, placing before ourselves, placing before the God our sinful human being nature, the God, and at times we come up short of your glory. And the Lord, we have misrepresented you, the Lord, in so many different ways. But even as we would have sat there, God, listened, participated in this program this afternoon, we pray, Lord, that we would really shine the light on the inside. And dear Lord, show us where we need to make improvement. We understand that God, your word fully clear that says that unless the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that builds it. So even at this time, that God, we acknowledge you as Lord of our lives, and let us trust you, that God, with our future and even with our marriages. The Lord, you still intended it has to be between a man and a woman, and over the years, the Lord, the kingdom of darkness, the crash and blood of God, trying to misrepresent marriage, make it look at something as if it's, it's evil or it's not good, but the Lord is still honorable and a bit undefiled. So I present you every husband, every wife before you even at this time. Bless husband, may they understand that they are called to be the priests of the home. So the Lord lead them in the paths of righteousness. And may they love their wives as Christ loved the church, and that they will not provoke the children unto wrath. We pray the Lord for wives, that they'll understand what a significant role they play in the lives of the marriage. Even they got to submit to their own husband. May they first submit to you, the Lord, so that you can show them how to be submissive. And the Lord, their husband, would the God love them in return, and the home will be a happy place. And the Lord, marriage would appear as something desirable even on those who are looking on. Help we as Christians that we would lead by example. I pray, Lord, that even in this time in which we live, that you'll be pleased with the marriage of your people. So bless everyone, and the Lord, I pray that you strengthen marriage and save the God marriage for eternity. These mercies we ask in Christ's name.
Amen. Lord, thank you so much for a wonderful day and for the week that you've given to us. Thank you for the Sabbath that you've also provided for our rest. Please continue to guide us as a church family and help that our marriages will reflect you as it's starting to fail to do. Please help that those onlooking will see that you as an example should be displayed in their lives, and that they will actually find that you are also involved in those marriages that don't even profess to have you in them. Lord, please help that that all the people who are willing will be able to accept you as their Savior, and will be willing to submit to you, just as submission to you would actually allow submission to each other and eventually a happy marriage. Please continue to bless our marriages and continue to bless our togetherness. Please continue to guide us and help us to realize that you are the center of our home and that you are the one that we need to first submit to. Please continue to bless everything that we do and continue to bless our families as well, for Christ's sake. Amen.
So thank you for joining us as we explore who's in charge. Join us next week as the topic will be when the umbrella leaks. Another exciting night at Youth Life Unplugged awaits you next week. Happy Sabbath, and may God bless you and your families.
Good night.
Take care.
Enjoy.
Lord, I come before you with contrite heart. Humbly I surrender all that I am. I want to learn from you. Please draw me close to you. Help me share your love and grace in all I do. Lord, I come before you with contrite heart. Humbly I surrender all that I am. I want to learn from you. Please draw me close to you. Let me share your love and grace in all I do. Oh Lord, transform to a darkened world, and always leave your truth in every way. May your love for me be seen by everyone, and lead others to trust and